Thank you. Well, as befits the occasion, I thought I'd present you with some data. In a recent survey of online data practices in the UK, we found that 18% of UK internet businesses rely exclusively or mostly on data and analysis when growing their sales. These companies, it turned out, were more innovative than other firms, both in terms of product and process innovations. They were more likely to claim significant commercial benefits from their online customer data. These firms, we call them datavores, are the lead business adopters of data and analytics in the UK. But if we turn this finding on its head, it begs an intriguing question, which is why, given the ubiquity of online data that we've heard about earlier today, do we find that far more internet businesses rely mostly on experience and intuition when growing their sales? Why, if there are these significant benefits from adopting a data-driven approach, do we not see all internet firms acting as datavores? So this is one of the motivations for our research. And what we found was that there are some systematic differences between the wider business practices of the datavores and these other firms, which shed some light on the answer. So, before we do that, just very briefly, by way of context for this research, is the significance of the commercial internet in the UK. With 8 out of 10 people having access to the internet, and the World Wide Web Foundation assessing that the UK is third in the world in its use of the web after Sweden and the US. Many of you will know that UK consumers lead Europe in their use of e-commerce, with almost 2/3 having reported purchased goods or services online in the previous 3 months. And with this growth of the commercial internet has come the data boom, with the IBM's claim that we've heard a couple of times already today, that 90% of the world's data was created in 2 years. Now, there's been a great deal of commentary on what this might all mean for the competitiveness of businesses that are the quickest to exploit their data. But in the main, and there's a certain irony here, most of the research undertaken has been case study based, making it difficult to generalize. While there are increasing numbers of business surveys led by strategy consultancies, they tend to focus on data generally, not online specifically. And they also look at an international spread of typically what are quite large businesses, and they are really independent studies. So, in Rise of the Datavores, which is a publication we put out towards the end of last year, we surveyed 500 UK businesses with more than 50 employees in a range of different sectors and that are active online. In an area where a lack of consistent use of terminology causes a great deal of confusion, we've talked about the term big data earlier, we've chosen to use the term online analytics to describe the collection, analysis and use of online customer data, not only to improve website performance, but also to inform other areas of decision making, such as pricing, product and process innovation, business strategy and so on. The survey asks firms questions about their collection of data, their analysis of data, how they act or not on their data, and of course what impact this has. So what do we find? We find that the collection of data is very, very patchy. So even amongst our sample of online active businesses, only 38% collect comprehensive transactions data. And remember, these are internet active businesses. In the great majority of businesses, the analysis is basic and descriptive. This chart here shows that less than 30% of businesses run A/B experiments and other controlled trials, although that proportion is increasing very rapidly, and only 13% use econometric techniques such as regression analysis. And an important implication of this is that the vast majority of businesses are using their data for detecting correlations between variables, but not identifying causal relationship. Almost 1/3 of businesses fail to perform even elementary analysis of their data. Now, this distinction between using data for establishing causal relationships and correlations is an important theme in Ken Kukier's book that we mentioned earlier on. And it may be an interesting topic for discussion later to identify where do we think that purely data-driven approaches to establishing correlations in the data may potentially lead to misleading inference. So, unsurprisingly, the majority of businesses use data to improve their website. These are internet businesses. Over half of them use it to tailor their marketing or sales campaign. but only 41% say that they use data to inform their business strategy. And curiously, an even lower proportion of businesses use it to optimize their pricing. Sorry, that's a slide there. So the last statistic I was referring to is the 27% of businesses. So less than 30% of internet active businesses in the UK are actually using their data to optimize their pricing, which as an economist seems rather surprising. So there are also striking differences in the use that the datavores make of their data. Note in particular here the marked gap between, sorry, I'm running behind my slides here. The marked difference here between datavores who say they use their data to inform business strategy compared with experience-driven companies. So I think we've covered this earlier on, really. I mean, the very, very small percentage of businesses. The DDC here, incidentally, is referring to what I'm calling the datavores. So these are data-driven companies, that's the acronym, and XDCs are referring to those businesses that claim to use experience and intuition in forming their sales strategies. So we also found that we basically looked at, we asked businesses that were data-driven and experience-driven to comment on how significant the contribution of online customer data was there to their business performance. And what we basically find is very significant differences between the percentage of businesses that are datavores, the DDCs, and the XDCs, who are actually claiming to report commercial benefits from their data. So here we find that just under 50% of datavores are claiming to reap significant or very significant rewards from their online data, compared with 12% of experience-driven businesses. It's important to bear in mind here that the way we've segmented the data into datavores and experience-driven businesses is not just based on their use of online customer data, because then this result would follow automatically. We base that on their attitudes to data more generally in their businesses. So what we're finding is that businesses that more generally are more adept at using their data are finding that they are claiming that there are very significant returns they're making on their online data. So here we are, datavores 4 times likely to report significant benefits from their data. The other difference that I alluded to earlier is that data-driven businesses are far more likely to describe themselves as introducing product and process innovations compared with their experience-driven businesses. We also asked businesses across the spectrum about the nature of investments that they're making in their capabilities, in their data and analytics capabilities. And what we find here is that across the sample, internet businesses are claiming to make significant investments in their human capital, through recruitment, through investing in training. But what we do find here is that the gap that exists between the datavores and the experience-driven businesses is actually getting larger over time. So we're seeing more significant investments by the more sophisticated businesses at the cutting edge. We also asked all our businesses about what the main barriers were to exploiting their online customer data. And what we find is that the 2 reasons that are most commonly given by datavores, the more sophisticated businesses who use their data, is concerns about online data privacy and security. Now, these are concerns, unsurprisingly, for businesses that are experience and intuition driven too. But what you find in the latter group of businesses, that they are as likely to point to cultural barriers in their organisation to change. Large numbers of experience-driven businesses are claiming that decision-making is centralised in their organisation, that individuals that have access to the data and that use the data are not given the authority to act on them. And the important implication that we draw from this result is that organisations the capabilities that they need to invest in to make use of their data isn't simply a case of technical skills and the data science skills that we talked about earlier, but actually organisations may need to make sometimes painful structural decisions about how they manage their employees and the management processes they use. And that echoes a conclusion, I think, that the Commissioner made earlier. So, just to conclude, the field is very much still open. The research suggests that UK businesses have much left to do in the area of online analytics. We think we found strong evidence of benefits from adoption, although I'll comment on how we can further explore that. And then last but not least, organisations need to invest in skills, process and their business culture to put their data to work. So, just to finish, this is very much the first piece of research in a 3-year research program on data and analytics. What we're currently doing is that we've taken our survey data and we've matched that with company accounts data, which is to allow us to explore the relationship between these data and analytics behaviours and hard measures of financial performance. That's what we're currently doing. And although this is a piece of research around data and analytics, it's a second irony I'd point to is that it's that the research method that we've used for this particular work is sort of horribly analog. It's a firm, it's a telephone survey of firms. What we'd really like to do is get a firmer handle on the causal relationship between firms' observed behaviours and their business performance by running our own randomised control trial to test the impact that online analytics has on business performance. And this is something that we're developing in collaboration with Hal Varian and his team at Google. Thirdly, alluding to the broader issues about organisational change and management I pointed to earlier, we're very interested in considering what the implications are for the skills agenda, not least because of the implications for public policy. And then last but not least, as we heard from the previous session, there are lots of exciting opportunities for data to be used, big data sets to be used to improve public and social outcomes. And so we have a public datavore strand to our work that we'll be developing this year as well. Thank you.